Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to EntreLink HKPC Regional InnoTech Summit. I'm Anne, your MC of today. EntreLink was established in 2018, a nonprofit organization run by local startup founders to promote development of technology and innovation ecosystem in Hong Kong. Together with the Hong Kong Productivity Council as the co-organizer, the Regional InnoTech Summit is a key initiative to promote and bridge promising Hong Kong startups to key decision makers of the technology and innovation ecosystem in the GBA and ASEAN cities. The summit comprises panel discussions, regional conferences, business matching sessions, e-clinics, and etc., taking place from 28th to 30th April on an online platform. It serves as an effective channel for local startups and corporates to explore opportunities, seek consultation, and connect with key players locally and regionally. The schedule of the first day is 2 webinars and 1 startup presentation of property tech. You may get to know the new normal under COVID-19 from a macroeconomic perspective and the major initiatives of PwC, HKPC, and Cyberport during the new normal. There's a sharing on the obstacles that ASEAN cities are facing under the pandemic, how they responded and tackled the problems, and also the opportunities hidden from honorable guests in the second webinar. And lastly, the startup presentation of property tech enables startups to showcase their solutions or products and receive feedback from corporate panelists. For the second day of the summit, we have 1 startup presentation from FinTech showcasing the latest technology and innovative solutions and products in the market now, and 1 webinar about startup opportunities and go-to-market in the Greater Bay Area. For the third day of the summit, we have 1 startup presentation from EdTech showcasing their latest technology and innovative solutions and products currently in the market. A final webinar about startup opportunities and go-to-market in ASEAN, and also the SME Reach Out funding session to introduce and explain the funding scheme available for SME from government right now. Before kicking start to our first webinar of the day, we would like to take this opportunity to thank you, our co-organizer, Hong Kong Productivity Council, for providing various kinds of support to our summit, such as promotion, guest invitation, e-clinics, and so on and forth. This beautiful venue is also provided by HKPC, which is situated at Kowloon Tong with 1-minute walk from MTR station. Besides, we would also like to thank our collaborating organizations, Cyberport, Federation of Hong Kong Industries, and Hong Kong Startup Council partners for their unwavering support in this event, as well as other partners, including but not limited to PwC Mainland China and Hong Kong, Franklin Covey, Hong Kong Trade Development Council, HKUI Dendron, HKUST Entrepreneurship Center, Lime HK, MWYO, Tencent WeStart, Hong Kong Women Professional and Entrepreneurship Association, Hong Kong Wireless Technology Industry Association, and Hong Kong Technology Incubation Network. Last but not least, we would like to thank Trade and Industry Department of HKSAR Government for providing the Trade and Industrial Organization Support Fund to support us hosting the summit today. This event is also on live on Facebook, and you can watch it on various Facebook pages, including our very own EntreLink Facebook page. And now, we would like to kick off the summit with the first session of today, Webinar 1, Panel Discussion. Our guest speakers will shed light on the investment opportunities under the new normal and how startups can survive under the capital winter. Now let's invite our valuable guests for the sharing session of the first session of today. Please guests, please come on the stage. Our guests include Mr. Willie Lin, GBS, JP, the chairman of the Hong Kong Productivity Council, a veteran industrialist with extensive experience in the textile and garment business. He's also the managing director of Milos Knitwear International Limited and the non-executive director of Topform International Limited. IR Eric Chan, the chief public mission officer of Hong Kong Cyberport Management Company Limited. He is in charge of building the startup ecosystem at Cyberport, from inspiring the next generation through nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit to empowering global ambition by providing comprehensive entrepreneurship programs, funding support, and partnership networks. Mr. Jim Woods, Chief Digital Officer of PwC Mainland China and Hong Kong. Jim is also a member of the firm's executive leadership team with broad-based responsibility for the digital agenda in an organization comprising 20,000 and more people. And we have Mr. Raymond Mack, the co-founder and director of EntreLink, as our moderator of today. May I now pass the time to Raymond, please.
Thank you, Anne, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Regional InnoTech Summit, and I'm the moderator of today, Raymond. As Anne just said that, I am the co-founder and director of EntreLink, and then also the co-founder and CEO of Pharmacy HK, an urban farming technology company. So I am very excited today because not only because the topic, we talk about the new normal, where should we invest and innovate. That's very important to the startups and also a lot of corporates and investors. But also, I'm very excited because my mentors and friends are all here today. Before I found my company, I was trained and learned from PwC. I have been there for 6 years. And then I'm now still a tenant and also nurtured by Cyberport. I'm the Cyberport tenant. And then I'm also sitting in the Bud Fund Committee in HKPC. So, all my bosses, mentors, friends are here. So very excited. I think that, about the topic today, we talk about new normal. New normal means that since the COVID-19 pandemic, all our life changes, many startups, commercial and also social environment change, need to a new type of mindset, new type of behaviors, and then also new type of investment and innovation behaviors as well. But after that, more than around 18 months now, 17 to 18 months now, so-called new normal is actually really normal, right? And I think that there's a lot of things happening, not only in social perspective, but also from Productivity Council, Cyberport, and PwC as well. So maybe, to start the whole session, may I introduce and invite Willie first, to talk about what Productivity Council has been doing, during the new normal, and then we kickstart off the whole discussion. All right?
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. So it's great to be here. Welcome everybody to HKPC. As I will probably can see from the one sort of slide, the 6 things that actually we have been doing, but as Raymond said, the new normal become a normal for all our daily lives. So supporting SME startups, this has been the one of our main pillar. How can we work with companies like from Raymond's friends and all these new startups? Because they have great ideas, and we believe that actually we talked to a lot of them. Some of them have a pretty good turnover. The last 16 months, they have a lot of great business. So, but this is one thing that we want to support through our Innopreneur program. Second one, of course, is reindustrializations. I think a couple of years ago, the Hong Kong government have been trying to find a way to rejuvenate the industries in Hong Kong, in line with what STEM education industries, and also drive towards the future technology highway, so-called. And of course, third one is called intelligent manufacturing. We just launched our program, which is supporting one new factory being set up, basically relying on IoT, big data, and robotics. So we believe that small-scale manufacturing with high value content can be a future for Hong Kong. In particular, we can utilize the duty-free import of Hong Kong, which is very, very unique compared to other countries in the world, or even within the regions. Digitalization, cybersecurity, the more we use technologies, I think the more we heard about cybersecurity threats. I think this is extremely important to alert, especially SMEs, that besides playing with your computers or phone, there's a lot of security backdrop you need to figure out. And fourth, the fifth is future skills. Without skills, without knowledge of the technology, how can we support industries, SMEs, or even simple OEM manufacturing? So that is fun. And finally, of course, smart and green living. This is also, I think that's in futures, this is something that we have to look at. Yeah. So just very briefly, what we've been doing with the new normal or the non-normal.
Thank you, Willie. It's a very meaningful sixth initiative. I particularly, of course, I like the smart and green living because it's actually related to me. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So, apart from the Hong Kong Productivity Council, I know that Cyberport, has been investing and also taking the lead of a lot of initiative during the new normal. So maybe I have Eric, to introduce some of the initiative from Cyberport to us as well.
Sure, Raymond. First of all, good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me here today. So, could I have the next page? So basically, Cyberport is the flagship for digital tech in Hong Kong. Next page. We have actually gathered over 1,600 digital companies, big and small, startups and all these established tech companies in Cyberport. We actually have been seeing in this pandemic that digital transformations now becomes a necessity rather than a nice to have for some industry in the past. And some of our digital enablers have actually thrived in the pandemic, although actually the global economic downturn has actually affected a bit of the tech investment overall. But then there are a lot of various different digital companies, especially in the areas of like education tech or health tech, e-commerce, and even people that are used to help, conferences like us, because there's very small chances of having physical conferences, and they have actually quickly turned the solutions into a virtual conference platform to support, events, continue to go on even in the pandemic. Next page. So in Cyberport, we have actually a very holistic program on entrepreneurial support, all the way, from a very early stage of talent cultivations, working with universities to groom enough talents and make sure there's enough supply to the innovation and technology sectors. And then all the way, to incubation, to accelerations, market expansions. And we even have our own VC fund to make sure that those good companies in our community get the support they needed. Right. So the focuses that Cyberport has is, while we focuses very much on digital tech, we specially focuses on 3 vertical sectors, namely the fintech, for obvious reasons, because Hong Kong as an international finance center, we have all the necessary, I would say the reasons for us to develop fintech, for the region, if not for the world. And then we have smart living. There's over 700 of smart living, companies in Cyberport, ranging, from health tech and e-commerce and many others, robotics, and which is actually part of the smart city blueprint, under the government policy. And then last but not the least, digital entertainment, where esports is part of it. And everybody understands that esports has been really booming, and China is definitely the leaders in the world now. We probably won't be the leader in the world, but we would be a part of it for the pure reasons, this is a big industry, as well as giving ample opportunities for youngsters, for job opportunities and entrepreneurial opportunities. And then to support all these, various different verticals in terms of transformations, we have horizontal, clusters in technologies, and AI, blockchain, cybersecurity. And then because we understand talents is a very important aspect of it, so we have actually set up a Cyber Academy to provide the necessary programs relevant, to the industry, right? Yeah. So I think that's all I have today, just to give you a glimpse. But last, I would say that the best, value propositions that we have for the startup community is the network that we provide to them. Because at the end of the day, they need to find businesses. So we have the enterprise network to help them get customers and references. And then we have investor network to make sure that they get the funding they need for their scale-up journey to be a unicorn. And then we have the technology network to help them find the right technology. Last but not the least, the professional search network. When they need to go to IPO or other merchant acquisitions, restructuring. We have all the support for them. So that's probably, you know, a summary of the Cyberport work that we have been doing, even in the pandemic.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. It's actually as a incubation graduates and also, you know, the current tenancy in Cyberport. And personally, I feel a lot of support, you know, from the Cyberport community, because it's not only about the initiative that Eric just introduced us. You know, when we are in the community, we feel that there's a lot of connections between the technical tenancy and also the non-technical tenancy. There's a lot of synergies and also connections initiated by Cyberport as well. And then also we are asked by the management, you know, to see there's any social participation during the COVID-19 as well. So there's a lot of meaningful actions and activities from there. But how about Jim? So just now, Willie and Eric shared their initiative, you know, from a directly SME and startup related community. From the commercial world and also you know, professional services point of view, is the market really like how the market really responding? Because people keep saying, right, the pandemic actually destroyed the investment opportunities and also pushed some of the development of the technology as well. So how PwC see it, you know, from the changes over the past 15 to 18 months, and where you see, you know, the opportunities and also so-called the damage lines in?
Yeah, thanks Raymond, and really excited to be here this morning. And the topic InnoTech is absolutely really my mandate at PwC. And I guess over the past, as you say, 18 months or so, PwC had already been driving a program called Digitizing the Network globally across our 300,000 people. But what COVID has done is really accelerated and put that program on steroids, and particularly my role here in China is really to create a culture of not just entrepreneurship, but what we call intrapreneurship. So we are really trying to create that culture at PwC China of what we call citizen-led innovation. Traditional business, big business, corporate business has been very top-down, but that is obviously very slow and not very innovative. So what we're driving in China is what we call a game changer culture. We have an entrepreneurship fund, very aligned to venture capital type mindset, to encourage our 20,000 people to apply for funding to scale their new ideas. We're embracing many of the VC sort of norms in terms of we are moving to a smart office environment. You'll see I'm not no tie and suit on today. So if you think about traditional big corporates, we have come a massive way in the past 18 months, 24 months as an organization, because there is a war for talent out there. And we're embracing alliances and partnerships with venture capital firms to help us drive that change internally. And why are we doing that? Because obviously, not just around the people agenda in terms of attracting talent, but our clients. Our clients expect innovation. And you know, you can see the quote here from one of our recent CEO surveys. All of the CEOs today see digital transformation as the top priority, and COVID has only accelerated that. So my role at PwC China, as I say, is both from an internal perspective, how do we transform our culture and how we interact with clients, but I also head up PwC Products. So moving away from a traditional human-led delivery model to one that's embracing software, embracing digital tools, embracing digital products. And we see that combination of technology and people and human as the new norm. And that's really the trend. When we think of digitization, I think as Eric and Willie mentioned, it's not just about technology. In some ways, it's more about people, culture, behavior, ways of working. So very, very exciting times, but also, you know, it's quite stressful because we need to move fast.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Exactly. I mean, the transformation and also digitalization are the keywords, you know, over not only during COVID-19, but that has been this year hottest topic. I want to ask Eric, you know, just now Jim shared his perspective on, you know, how not only Hong Kong, but also China has been changing in response to COVID. And just now you also share some of the initiative in Cyberport. How do you see the changes? Like with all the 1,000 startups and technology companies in Cyberport, you must be witnessing a lot of changes among them. And then you're also saying, promote the fintech, smart living, and also, the esports, right? So what is the trend? Like where is there focuses on the transformation and the technology enhancement to really adopt, observe the changes that Jim just shared?
Yeah, thanks, Raymond. Well, really at the outstart of this pandemic, we have seen a kind of a slowdown on the tech investment on a global basis. And I would say that the investors are becoming actually a little bit more prudent. They would rather invest into a later stage, tech companies, and then hence, we sense there's just a potential threat, for early stage startup, right? So, but then, as I said, the silver lining in this kind of a pandemic is really digital transformations. Is now becoming, so important for almost all industries. And being a startup ecosystem builder, we have actually seen in many of our startups, that the agility, the dynamic, the responsiveness to the market, and they have actually quickly adopted their solutions into a very timely solution to actually help the world as a whole, right? To actually fight COVID in various sense. You have actually seen digital companies helping citizens, in terms of health tech, in terms of edutech, where students still need to learn, even they cannot go back to school, right? And then you have seen the booming of those e-commerce companies, really I would say restructuring the whole commerce industry, and hence we have our own VCs. And we believe that investors are still looking for good quality projects. It's more important to let them know which are the good ones. So we have actually set up our own VC funds, where we in the year 2020 we invested into 6 of them. We only invested 40 million Hong Kong dollars, which is not a lot of money, but our investment actually provides kind of an endorsement that they are good companies. And in that same round, that 6 companies managed to attract over 500 million. Wow. So the effect that we have been doing is like every dollar we put in those companies, it turns into $13. This amplification effect is really what we are trying to do by setting up our VC funds. So I would say that as a digital kind of a transformation or digital catalyst for Hong Kong, good digital companies still have a chance. And some of them actually feed back to me that in 2020, it actually is a record-breaking business for them. Right. For example, one of them is I was saying, they were originally a digital companies to help physical events as a supporting role, but quickly they changed that solutions into a virtual conference platform. And now they got exported to the neighboring countries, through the help of TDCs, because everybody still have to conduct business and hold conferences like this, which is so important for the development of industry.
So we have to act fast, right?
Right.
And be agile on
Exactly.
that, right?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Eric. So just now, Eric shared, a little bit on how startup has to respond during this COVID-19, and then I think speed is a very important word because the market changing so fast, right? And also, but of course, the key word would be also the quality. That always, no matter whether there's a COVID or not, then the quality of and how to address the client needs is exactly how the startup and also the any companies can excel in this kind of changes and transformation. But really, I mean, you have been supporting. I mean, the PC has been supporting SME a lot and with a lot of fundings initiatives. How do you see over the past 15 to 18 months? Startup is actually part of your mandate as well, because we can be regarded as SME as well, right? Some of them are really big. But how do you see from an SME perspective and also, from the Productivity Council, what is the changes? What is the damages and opportunities?
Well, I think that similarly, PC is a statutory body for Hong Kong government, right? We do two projects actually. One is supporting emphasis on technology upgrading, and the other one is of course as a secretariat, providing funding support for the various organizations. What we do see is actually what we have been saying that it's a golden triangle. Actually, the government is the one that have been providing. There's more than 45 different fundings the government have provided, billions of dollars, and the government have provided different fundings for different needs of the entrepreneur or for the startup or SME, whether you're local or you want to set your plants overseas. Secondly, I think is looked at as we provided talent, provided technology support, applied research, and then of course we have another quasi-government or statutory body, the science part, providing a lot of infrastructures, land inside Hong Kong or eventually in the Greater Bay Area and even on the link. So all this actually, these three partners actually provide foundations to support planning for them for the coming 5 years. But at the same time, I am just now, Jim has been talking about the entrepreneur. I think startups is known to be swift, but then we need to teach them entrepreneurship thoughts and actions, how to get the job done, whether inside organizations, on the desktop level, what PwC did, how to encourage their own staff to innovate, but at the same time is enable them to retry it without a big loss, as opposed this way. Of course, not everyone is workable. So our fundings, the fundings we see is multiple increase in applications. During this 18 months, we did not see any drop at all. Whether locally, overseas, actually inside China projects or ASEAN projects have been up 40-50%. So companies did not stop because of epidemic. But I think certainly with all this Zoom, all this type of technology, video conferencing, or such, enable them to actually bridge the traveling gap that they have not been able to do. And very fortunately, the logistic trade actually helps. They can actually send the products to overseas customers, to their partners in future. Actually, they can touch it. They can see from the screen is great, but touching is believing it also. So I think these two add together, the thoughts and actions, the entrepreneurial spirit for actually Asians, is particularly are doing quite well. Actually.
Yeah, I've been aware that PC has been encouraging and also helping a lot of SME and startup to go different jurisdictions, for example, mainland China and also ASEAN, to do business just now, right? And then Eric also saying that because of the COVID, startup need to find more opportunities in the region. That's why we're talking about the Region InnoTech Summit as well. But how about startup going into other jurisdictions for real opportunities, but not only space in Hong Kong and doing business? For example, when we talk about the GBA, the Greater Bay Area, I must ask this question to Willie. We are talking about 34% of GDP in Shenzhen actually driving from the high-tech industry, way more than the portion and also the figures in Hong Kong. So if the startup and the SME really going into that jurisdiction, where is the opportunity and also the risk? And I would really love to hear Jim's voice as well, on this part, because as a corporate perspective, there should be a lot of requirements and expectation in China that the Hong Kong company needs to learn as well. So maybe I get Willie's point of view first.
Well, thank you. Actually, I think GBA is not unknown to Hong Kong companies, put it this way. I mean, we've been around for 30 or 40 years. A lot of manufacturers and OEM manufacturing is actually done in GBA in the past. But what happened is Hong Kong have been migrating to 98%, 99% service industry. Only 1% left is actually technology related or industry related. So in the last 4 or 5 years, when the government are looking for these reindustrializations, it's actually putting a new impetus, a new drive to support companies that, yes, Hong Kong still have, we have some of the best universities around the regions. We have a lot of great talent in universities that nurture them. but we don't have the scale. So what happened is we should try to utilize Hong Kong as a base for small setup, technology-driven setup, utilizing a lot of new materials to create products in which, because as I mentioned earlier, we do not have our custom is very simple. We only tax on 3 things, but otherwise we are free to import everything. So companies can actually manage to bring the product into Hong Kong. In 2 days' time, they can pick the product back and ship it out already. So this kind of small-scale manufacturing, testing setup, but more important is to enable the Hong Kong university students or graduates can actually get their hands dirty in Hong Kong. They can actually make the product in Hong Kong and let them test it out. If they could scale it up, fine. If they could be in GBA, in China, or in ASEAN countries, anywhere. It's not, but enable them to get their hands dirty, and enable them to try out the making of products. We'll also enable them to showcase to a lot of manufacturers that, wow, you can partner with us. We actually help you to improve your manufacturability using robotics, AIs to actually help them to be competitive. Because in future, I think everybody's looking at saying that cheap labor is not here to be last forever. Right. But technology-driven, technology support will enable quality to be a live aspect. So buyers are expecting to buy not only cheap, but they need quality. And this kind of scaled up will enable Hong Kong companies to actually drive the technology lane highway in the coming 5 to 10 years. So we can still be relevant in whether in Hong Kong, made by Hong Kong, or made with Hong Kong companies.
So that is the concept of quality and design center, before we go into GBA and other jurisdiction and markets. But Jim, is it the same view from you? And also, what is the corporate environment and expectation? Do you think that Hong Kong really has a position and also the values to add in other jurisdictions as well when we go into that?
Yeah, thanks. And just maybe echoing Willie's point. I mean, obviously, as a major city in China, I think for our sort of big bets as we look forward, we're very much driven by obviously market demand and our clients. And if you think about broader government policy around regional economic clusters, here in the south, that is GBA. And we look at that very much as what we call a smart region, rather than a collection of individual smart cities. The question for us is, how do we actually operate synergistically in that region? And we're following that sort of ethos in our own organization and operation. So as Willie said, I think having lived in Hong Kong for 26 plus years now myself, I think there is an urgency for Hong Kong to continue to drive its own innovation, because Guangdong is obviously, we know Shenzhen just over the border, it's got access to a huge amount of talent across the mainland as well as capital. And it's easy to say Guangdong and Hong Kong are complementary, because Hong Kong has a tremendous legacy and history of academic research, et cetera, et cetera. So putting them together absolutely makes sense. But we believe that Hong Kong needs to continue to innovate, right, and partner with Guangdong.
So you mean the upstream has to collaborate with, the upstream is actually the research, R&D, and then to work with the manufacturers and also the implementation companies in GBA.
That's right. Embracing that smart region, rather than resting on our laurels that Hong Kong has been a fantastic, successful city. As an organization, we are actively encouraging all our people in Hong Kong to have a mainland China experience, for example, to really understand the innovation that is happening on the mainland. And then, when they return to Hong Kong, they're in a better place to interact as part of that holistic region.
I understand. Thank you.
So it's how does 1 + 1 = 3, essentially.
Very well, very well.
Yeah.
Anyway, just now, Jim, share about the insights of the collaboration between Hong Kong and mainland China, or probably all other regions as well, being the, as we say, design and quality center. I know that Cyberport has been working with different associations and organizations and partners in GBA and also in ASEAN as well. So how do you see the so-called collaboration? Is it working very well, and then also what can be done, because the last question will be very important is how to make all these synergies turn into money, right? The investment and also the real opportunities, because not only about the innovation, but this has to be turned into commercialization and revenue, right?
Sure.
So what's the view on that?
I would see that, to the startup world, this GBA blueprint that was published in 2019 was actually a great news, for the startup world, because at the end of the day, when we talk to the kind of the dreamers, all these startup founders like yourself, market access is the most important success factor for any startups who has the aspirations to become a unicorn. And Hong Kong by itself, it's actually a very small market of 7.5 million people, and it's too small a market, for you to scale up. And now immediately, with this GBA blueprint, we have 10 times the market size, right? And then we have all these various different strengths of those cities to work together, to make this region, a really, I would say, a comparable region to Silicon Valley or the Tokyo Bay Area, right? So, but then I think I echo with Jim's view that we Hong Kong have to actually create our own value within this GBA engine. We have to demonstrate, to the country that Hong Kong has a unique role to play. It's not just one of the many Chinese cities in China. And I see a lot of uniqueness for Hong Kong, especially as a Hong Kong grown up, and then I've actually been studying abroad. And when I look at Hong Kong is very international. We understand multi cultures, and then we definitely Hong Kong has a position to play to help GBA companies to go out of China. Use Hong Kong as a launching pad, to kind of internationalize their products, because Hong Kong understands, all these, kind of international rules and regulations, the need for data privacy, the IP protections, and all these, and even from the design perspective, the UI UX for the world. I think Hong Kong has an edge, for that, and vice versa. The startup we can actually help overseas companies using Hong Kong as their first stop for Asia expansions, and help them, to the GBA areas. Yes, Raymond, you're right that we have been working for many years to establish our partnership network in GBA areas. One of them is actually PwC. I actually just, kind of share with Jim the exciting project that we're working on is actually a GBA accelerator program that we're helping startups to go to GBA.
Yeah, I should join then.
Yeah, apart from that, recently we have just signed a contract with Tianhai, Tianhai. And then basically it's this special economic zone, they will be providing lending support. So I would see that, yes, it's really up to Hong Kong to demonstrate what we believe is unique, for Hong Kong and the value that we're going to put into this equation.
Thank you, Eric. Before I go to the last question, I know that there's a lot of audiences from Facebook Live and also, from our partners' website and also the registered audiences. Feel free to ask questions online because we have a Q&A session later. I know that your question will be way more insightful and challenging to the speakers. So I would love to welcome your questions later on. So go back to the last question. All right, that's the core about the investment. Right. I think at the very beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, people has been saying, and I have been feeling that it was really a capital winter, is what we say, right? All the VCs and PE firms has been tightening their pockets, and then to wait and see the opportunities, and also we restructure and review their portfolio. I think probably this very, very tough situation, we would say kind of changing right now, right? With the latest statistics from CNN saying that, at least in Greater China area, the investment has actually been 65% more than over the last year. So things has been changing. And also not only in Greater China area. Just now, in the next webinar, we have some guests from ASEAN during the rehearsal, and we talk about, the upcoming investment and all the changes. So which means that there's a lot of opportunities at the same time. But we know that it's not that easy to identify that opportunities, right? Because it's not only like an average and everyone get the opportunities as well. So where this lines in, right? GBA, ASEAN, and also, but how about I invite James to talk about this first, because you have been, facing a lot of clients and also investors, partners as well.
Yeah, thanks, Raymond. And I echo your comments. And actually, we probably haven't really seen a capital winter ourselves over the past 18 months. From a mainland China perspective, I think of COVID more as a V-shaped recovery from a market perspective. Obviously, Hong Kong has maybe been a little bit more challenging in that regard, but I think Hong Kong is stabilized and recovering well as well. And one of the signs of confidence, I would say, in this part of the world is really attracting talent. And we're starting to see now serious pickup in recruitment from banks, private equity, and other forms of financial investor organizations. And they're typically the rich hunting ground who attack PwC staff. And I think, some people are saying this is the hottest capital market they've seen in mainland China in years. So asset values are very, very high. I think there's a feeling it could be a bubble, and there could be a window of opportunity. So we are certainly seeing from our clients, investors, a real acceleration in activity in the marketplace and a real appetite. I think, as Eric said, obviously with a degree of precision and focus on those areas that are likely to be the hottest as we go forward. But I think, obviously compared to the West, I think this part of the world is a very different dynamic. And the way we run our business, is very much focused on Asia, Asia Pacific, and China. From a tech perspective, tech development perspective, going forward, we increasingly see clients wanting Chinese technology, for example, or local technology, not relying on, and Eric talked about data. With the data sovereignty challenges today, there is a big focus on cloud and cybersecurity and these other challenges. So that is driving a lot of local investment, as well as a need for governments to have an end-to-end supply chain. In today's environment, I think a number of countries were caught with shortages from a supply chain perspective. So that, again, is driving a lot more domestic focus, domestic investment. So I think very exciting times for us sitting in this part of the world.
Yeah, so I pick up one of the very interesting words from Jim is that actually the domestic market, especially in China, is huge. And then, so which means that the localization and also, some of the opportunities are there. So, Eric, from your perspective, seems that, money is there, hot money is there as well, right? So, in your, especially the cyber focus, smart living, fintech, and also, esports, right? Is there opportunities, especially fintech, right? Because we have been in the International Financial Center, but then in China, in mainland China, is that really working? And then also, are they getting a lot of support from the investors?
Yes, I would say that I echo with Jim that the investment is definitely coming back, and we've actually seen that it's been coming back for the early stage companies. We have actually been tracking the investment raised by the Subwoofer community members, and there's been a lot of exciting news recently. I mean, with the biggest, I would say, the wealth tech investment into one of our companies called Aquamon, they raised 30 million, right? And it's a kind of have broken the digital wealth tech investment record, for 8 rounds, right? And then we have seen many others, attracting, a lot of other investment from around the regions. But as I said, at the end of the day, it's really about being a quality startup. You have to be good to attract investment, right? So, I mean, from a startup ecosystem perspective, what we've been doing is, for the majority of our community members, we would like to make sure that we work together with government to provide necessary support for them to survive through this difficult time. Like, for example, FSTB has been supporting us, to drive fintech for Hong Kong, and they gave us, $120 million to create 1,000 jobs, new jobs, for the fintech community in Hong Kong, which is very generous, right? And then through that, we make sure that there's enough talent supply, which is very important for any innovation hub in the world. And then currently we're also supported by FSTB. We are running a POC, proof of concept subsidy schemes, because to be an innovation hub of the world, you need to try new things. You cannot be too safe in a sense, right? And we're talking about ROI calculations, in the traditional businesses. But for startup, for innovation, we need to try more. And then now government has now both money and the endorsement to promote trying new things, innovations. And from that, hopefully, we can, bring Hong Kong, to the forefront and be really the leading in the fintech as a fintech hub. But then I would say that, for overall, I have a strong confidence for Hong Kong to attract fundings in the long run, especially for Hong Kong being an international finance center. It has raised, more fund than any cities in the world for many companies. And, our startup ecosystem actually sit in this kind of a treasure land. And then only that they need to prove they are good, then there's, I would say, no shortage of funding. And the way we help them is actually help them to get traction and industry adoption, which is key.
Yes.
Because without that, you cannot prove your business model, you cannot prove whether your solutions works or not, right? And with that, then the funding will come naturally. And that's how we see it.
Yeah, so actually I agree very much, because I think that many startups can feel the vibrant investment market once they get their products really proved and then accepted in the market. So that when they want to do the real expansion, it's actually there always no shortage on investment money. Basically, it's not only in Hong Kong but also in China. But we have been talking about mainland China and GBA a little bit more. But how about ASEAN? Really, we have been discussing and also exploring a lot of opportunities and partnerships in Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia as well, right? So you have been spending a lot of time there before COVID, especially, right? So how do you see the ASEAN market and opportunities, especially on the investment, and what the changes now?
Well, I think, it's coming to the point to say we say globalization versus localizations in a way. We see that localized because everybody cannot travel. Simply say PP products, right? We got a friend that's actually based in Slovakia. He actually asked our team to send them videos how to set up face mask line, how to make even up to N94, N95 face masks by video, teaching them and supporting them with which factory they should buy, how they get the materials, because they don't have such a thing in the past before. So locally, we got a lot. We did not see at all any shortage of investments in localization productions. We have over 40 projects on hand. Right. That some of them have done already. Some of them are still on the pipeline. But everybody want to start something now, right? And in preparation for them when the market actually opens, when the doors actually opens. As we said, in Asian countries, yes, they are all different stage of lockdown, unfortunately. But a lot of manufacturers actually suffer in a way because they can't send their technicians over. Factories are depending on really China to provide them the raw materials. That really causes some complications. But startup communities are still very vibrant. Hong Kong companies still want to set up their plants in Asian countries. um, because they know that they have to do it eventually. But not, again, we mentioned earlier, was not in the cheap labor point of view.
Right.
It's technology. All the new factories we set up, no matter if they are labor intensive or even basic t-shirt factories, they expect a lot of technologies in the production line. They expect AI, robotics, they expect transparency, because their customers also want to know at particular time, any time of the day, where are their productions? Don't just tell me that, oh, it's in the pipeline. What the pipeline means? They really want to down to the minute, where are my productions? Are you going to be on time delivery? And so such and so forth and so on. So all these big data, informations, sensors on the production line had to be installed in factories, whether you like it or not, because buyers demand it. And I think that's why a lot of Hong Kong startups actually very good in this kind of. We're not very probably we're not scale is smaller, but we've been able to manage this kind of technology, adaptation of technologies in the production line. I think that's what Hong Kong companies are really doing very well.
And also our goodwill in ASEAN market as well, because when
they have a trust with us. Hong Kong still have
Exactly.
a brands that they believe they can trust us, especially in food technologies. They're doing very well. Building knowledge of building constructions. We do have this branding, and it just have that we have not been really backing ourselves that we are great. I think during this 18 months, I think we seem that we have been more proactively engaging the world community by really no need to fly, but at least by virtuals. This actually helps to bridge the gap, bridge the understanding, and find partnership. I think these are all working pretty well, I think.
Yes, I agree 100%. When I try to penetrate in the Thailand market, one very small story. When I asked my sales promoter to talk about the good things about our company, and then they add 2 more lines without my request and say, so this is from Hong Kong. And then I say, why you have to highlight this? Because it works in Thailand. Okay, so I mean, it's actually pretty interesting and new to me, because we have been thinking, Hong Kong has been catching up, all the technology, but actually this is not. When we go to other markets, we do have our positioning and do have our values to add, right? So this is exactly, I mean, echo back with the overall discussion is about agility, speed, understand the client needs, and also we have to be very good to maintain that kind of positioning and also competitiveness in the region, not only in mainland China but also ASEAN and others, right? That's something that's very close to us.
Add one sentence on it. A lot of people always, Hong Kong consumes over 25% of Japan agriculture. But at the same time, a lot of countries, Asian countries, also say that, well, we've been selling product, but our market share seems to drop. And I told them all the time that because your packaging has to be improved, quality. How people are willing to pay for it, but you have to have quality. The packaging, reliability, is what people are buying. People are not buying more because we're not getting young, but people are buying more quality product, which assurance that what we eat is actually quality. So all this, how do we educate them? And this is something that companies like yours, that can actually help to explain what the consumer actually wants, not just a box of orange, a box of mango. No, they want individual quality. Well, how many days the mangoes can be eaten? How many days the papaya can be eaten? This scientific information data, consumers are looking for it, and this is what we can actually help them a lot.
And also the accumulated market intelligence, right? That we have been, exploring the market outside Hong Kong for decades, right? That's actually a very treasurable asset of Hong Kong people and also entrepreneurs, right? So thank you, Jim, Eric, and Willie. Now I pass the questions online only to see if there's any kind of questions, from our audiences. I believe that they will be way more challenging than I do. Well, may I ask one question, from them? Pretty challenging one. People cares about the U.S.-China relations, right? It's actually to talk about the relationship between these 2 major powers, right? And then to see how it actually impact the development of innovation and also investment in Hong Kong, and also how they develop in the nearby region. How do you guys see it? Jim, maybe you want to try first?
Yeah, without sort of getting directly into the sort of the political aspects, but I'd go back to the comments of certainly how we see a multinodal world, and going back to the ASEAN's comment, we are, you know, in this part of the world, blessed with having the China engine of growth that is supporting the whole region, Asia Pacific, on the global stage. And, you know, I was just talking to some of my global colleagues the other day. You know, China is going to dominate, you know, as the biggest global economy in the next 10 years. You know, it's not a case of if, it's more when. And what does that mean in terms of Chinese companies now going outbound and influencing the world? So, you know, we're, you know, from this part of the world, from this standpoint, we're very, very positive on working in this part of the world, our position, investment opportunities, and importantly, quality of life for people. And I think, you know, we talk a lot about business, but we're seeing at PwC a lot of the younger generation, not just the older generation, believe more and more about well-being and wellness and the quality of life. You know, we talk about climate, sustainability. Willie talked about good food. These things are important to people. So, you know, I think China, Asia, you know, very, very positive in a global scheme.
Eric?
Yes, I echo Jim's view that Hong Kong is somewhat, you know, being blessed, you know, as part, you know, being part of China, and you know, we are talking a lot about dual circulation, right? And I do believe that Hong Kong has an important role to play, as I already explained. But then I always believe in something quite fundamental: follow the money. You know, basically, from the commercial side, I mean, as an international technology hub, we have to stay relevant. We actually talk to international partners on a daily basis. From a commercial side, from an ecosystem builder, ecosystem perspective side, you know, nothing has slowed down. Things still goes on. And I would imagine that the only reason behind that is people are following the money. And because Asia is going to be the biggest market in the world, and I would imagine that people will find a way, you know, to do business here in this part of the world. And we being in the center of this region, with all these favoring policy that we have to leverage on, you know, all these wealth connect, you know, I think wealth management is going to be big. And Hong Kong definitely have to grasp on these golden opportunities. And all this, you know, important business like RegTech and 5G as a whole, you know, we have been supporting many of our community members to get support from government on the 5G early adoption scheme. And I think we have over 25 projects, you know, granted, and you know, collecting over $11 million support from the government. That means, you know, there's ample opportunities for this kind of new tech, you know, and support the overall, you know, tech industry.
May I say, not only we follow the money, but also money follow the markets, right? Like if the market is thriving, if the quality and also the companies are there, the demand are there, then definitely, you know, there's investment. No matter, you know, what kind of topics and the difficulties that we are in. But really, I mean, how about ASEAN? Because we know that Hong Kong, more and more Hong Kong companies has been looking into ASEAN, not only because of the geopolitics and or other market reason, but has been, you know, the new market, they have been, you know, working together as a big region as well. Okay, so how do you see it?
Well, I think definitely RCEP is what everyone has been talking. The hot topic of RCEP is important. How to go with regional partnerships. In the past 2 decades, right, the world growth basically relies on globalization. And of course, with the last 2 or 3 years, we see more geopolitics, we see more localizations. So, but not everybody knows we can't, a small economy like Hong Kong, we can't do everything ourselves. Maybe most of the economy can't afford to do everything themselves. Maybe China, they can, because they're size-wise. But a lot of countries cannot rely only on themselves locally. Just don't have enough talent, don't have enough land, don't have enough things to serve the people. So I still believe that globalizations, in some sort, will brought us, will have to be sustainable. But in the meantime, we have to accept regionalization. That's why we have RCEP, in which hopefully within RCEP countries, by enabling, well, there's enough population size, there's enough provide educations, there's not enough technology driven. All this will be enable us to the new 20 years, a new world. Yes, geopolitics is not something that we can involve. We're too small. But hopefully people can understand that geopolitics do not really block prosperity. I still believe that worldwide cooperations, multilateralism is what the world expected. And well, this is what we learn from the schools, right?
Yeah, I think that the insight that we pick up from all the speakers, Jim, Eric, and Willie, is that, as an entrepreneur and also innovation, right? What we have to focus is about, responding to the market needs. And of course, the market needs is not only about, geopolitics, but also social, but also, all the kind of commercial activities there. So as long as we focus on the market, we focus on the needs, then definitely we'll find a way out. And then if we can have that kind of supply and demand addressed, then investor will come in, right? So this is actually, what is really, entrepreneurship is about, and also how we do the business and also the expansion in region, not only in mainland China, but also in ASEAN as well. Okay, so thank you very much, for the sharing and also the insights. I think that all the audiences learned a lot of, interesting view and also insights from the speakers. So today, I think that our webinar one is coming to an end. May I, also thank again, for Jim, Eric, and Willie's participation. As what Anne shared with us earlier today, we are going to have a few more webinars in upcoming few days, especially more providing more focus in the market development in ASEAN and also the Greater Bay Area, right? So where the audiences can ask more questions into some of the very focuses area and the jurisdiction as well. All right, so thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond, and all honorable speakers for inspiring review about the overview of the startup landscape and how each stakeholders dealt with the new normal, but which is also the normal. And our next session will begin at shortly. If your audience is in the room with us right now, feel free to mingle with our honorable guests of today. And if you're watching via the Zoom link, remember you can stay in the same Zoom link for our next session. And you can also use the chat room function to also provide your insights and chat with our honorable guests of today. Thank you. We'll see you soon.